Someone hands you your coffee the exact way you like it, no reminder needed, and your eyes sting. A stranger's dog trots past and does something clumsy and sweet, and you have to look away and blink hard. You didn't lose anything. Nothing bad happened. And still, here it comes. You laugh it off. Sorry, I'm so emotional, you say. Already reaching for a tissue, already a little ashamed. You scan the room to see who noticed, and you brace for the look people give someone who cries at nothing. You've spent years assuming this means you're fragile, or too much, or somehow less in control of yourself than everyone else in the room. But you're not losing control. Something in you is doing exactly what it was built to do, on a schedule you never agreed to and can't override once it starts. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Crying easily isn't weakness leaking out, and it isn't a character flaw you need to manage. It's a release valve, opening on cue. In a body that learned pressure is safer let out in small amounts than held until it blows. You didn't choose this. Nobody sits down and decides how much feeling gets to leak out or when. That gets set earlier and quietly by a system built only to keep you steady. Picture a pipe carrying more pressure than it was built for. Somewhere along it sits a valve, and its whole job is to hiss open the instant pressure climbs, letting a little escape before the pipe can crack. That valve isn't a flaw in the pipe. It's the thing keeping the pipe in one piece. A small, steady hiss instead of a single catastrophic burst. That's the trade the system made, and it's a good trade. Your tears are that hiss. Every time something moves you and the tears come before you've even decided to let them, that's the valve doing its one job. Letting pressure go in small, survivable amounts, so it never has to go all at once. And it works ahead of you, not with you. By the time you notice your throat tightening, the valve has already started opening. It lives in the same fast, wordless system that yanks your hand off a hot stove. You can't out-argue a reflex that already fired. A researcher named Ad Vingerhoets spent decades studying something almost nobody else bothered to study seriously: why humans cry at all. He found that people who cried during a hard moment consistently reported feeling calmer afterward, even when nothing about the situation had changed. The tears weren't a symptom. They were the system doing its work. So here's the first thing the valve does. It opens widest over the smallest things. A commercial, a kind text, someone else's dog being clumsy and sweet. None of it is big enough by itself to explain the tears, and that's exactly the point you keep missing. You go looking for a reason large enough to justify the reaction, and there isn't one, because you're looking in the wrong place. The valve was never measuring the size of what set it off. It's measuring the pressure that was already sitting there underneath, and the coffee or the dog just happened to be standing next to the release button. The second thing is stranger. You cry for pain that isn't even yours. A friend describes a hard year, and your eyes well up faster than theirs do. A character in a film loses something, and you're the one reaching for a tissue in a dark theater full of dry eyes. Even a stranger's story on the news can do it, someone you'll never meet in a life you'll never touch. That's not oversensitivity. Your system doesn't fully separate a feeling it witnesses from a feeling it's having. Someone else's pressure reads to your body as pressure in the pipe. The valve doesn't check whose it is. It just opens. The third thing is the one you fight hardest and still lose. You feel it coming, the tight throat, the stinging eyes, and you try to physically hold it back, blinking, swallowing, staring at the ceiling, digging a nail into your palm. And it comes anyway, on its own schedule, like your body stopped waiting for your permission somewhere around childhood. That's because it did. This runs under thought, not through it. You're not weak-willed for losing that fight. You were never actually in the fight. The valve opened before the part of you that argues had even shown up. If any of this sounds like you, that's not a diagnosis. It's a pattern. And a pattern this consistent was built for a reason. If this is landing, tap like on this video. It helps this find someone else who's been apologizing for their own eyes for years. So where does a valve like this get set? Nobody's born ashamed of their own tears. Watch a small child cry hard for 30 seconds and then run back outside laughing, no residue, no apology. Somewhere between that child and you, the valve got recalibrated. Usually by one of three things. The first route is this. A small leak was the only kind of feeling your house allowed. Maybe anger got you sent to your room. Maybe joy got called too loud at the dinner table. But tears, quiet ones anyway, were tolerated. Sometimes even the only feeling that got you comfort instead of correction. A hand on your back instead of a warning to knock it off. So your system learned to route everything through the one door that stayed open. Not just sadness. Frustration, joy, pride, overwhelm, all of it funneled toward the exit that never got punished. The valve isn't leaking sadness. It's leaking whatever's there. Because it only ever learned the one path out. The second route is about timing, not feeling. Maybe you grew up fluent in the room before you were fluent in words for it, reading a parent's mood shift from 3 rooms away, sensing tension before anyone said a thing out loud, adjusting your voice and your face before you'd even named what you were adjusting to. That kind of childhood teaches a body to register emotional weather fast, which means your system reaches the feeling before your mind reaches the sentence for it. The tears aren't instead of understanding. They're what arrives while understanding is still catching up. Feeling early was never the problem. It's just faster than talking. The third route explains why it catches feelings that aren't even sad. Here's the mechanical truth. The valve doesn't have a sensor for sadness specifically. It has a sensor for pressure, full stop, and it releases the same way, whether that pressure is grief, anger, being deeply moved, or a good thing finally landing after a long wait. One gauge, reading intensity, blind to which emotion is behind it. That's why you cry when you're proud of someone, or furious, or simply relieved. It's not confusion about what you feel. It's one valve, handling every kind of weather with the only trick it has. Which means the tears were never proof you're too much, or too soft, or not built for a harder world. They're proof the valve is doing its old job well, in a life that mostly doesn't need it to work this hard anymore. So here's the first thing to actually do. Name the pressure, not the trigger. Next time your eyes sting over something small, pause before the apology and ask what's actually been building, not why am I crying about a dog, but what's been sitting in me that a dog was just standing next to. The trigger is rarely the story, the backlog is. That question doesn't stop the tears, and it doesn't need to. It just stops you from mistaking the release valve for the leak in the pipe. The second principle is building the container the valve never had. Widen the pipe. Right now, tears are doing a job that could be shared. Naming a feeling out loud the moment you notice it, moving your body when something's sitting heavy, writing one honest sentence about what's actually going on, taking 5 minutes alone, before you're expected to perform fine, all of that gives the pressure another way out besides your eyes. Do that consistently, and the valve doesn't have to work so hard, so constantly, over things this small. Not because you're suppressing anything, because you finally gave the pressure more than one door. The third principle takes the shame out of the room. Say what the tears actually mean. To someone watching, tears over a small thing look like an overreaction, and that reading stings almost as much as the crying itself. So say the true version out loud, plainly, before the silence lets them guess wrong. This isn't really about the coffee. There's just a lot underneath it today. One sentence turns a confusing overreaction into something the two of you understand together. Now, the tears aren't a mystery you have to apologize for. They're information you handed someone, on purpose. And the fourth principle is the deepest one. Stop trying to seal the valve shut. The goal was never to become someone who doesn't cry. A valve you weld shut doesn't make the pressure disappear. It just removes the one thing standing between you and the version of this that actually breaks something further down the line at a worse moment in front of the wrong person. The real goal is quieter. Build enough containers, enough safe rooms, enough honest sentences that the valve gets to rest a little instead of firing at every small kindness that walks past. And slowly it will, not by force, by evidence, gathered one honest moment at a time, that the pressure has other places to go now besides your eyes. That's the part worth holding on to. The valve was never the sign that something in you was broken. It was proof something in you refused to crack under weight that would have cracked plenty of other systems. People who come back from over-apologizing for their tears don't stop feeling deeply. They just stop treating the depth as the problem. You were never too sensitive. You were never too much. You were a system letting pressure go a little at a time so it never had to go all at once. Understanding people like you is what still psychology is for. If you want more of it, subscribe, so the next video finds you right when you need it. The valve still opens fast, and that's all right. It was never broken. It was just doing quietly the one job that kept everything else in you intact. This is still psychology.